Here we are, early evening on a Monday. The traffic was awful. It's cold outside. It's dark. Are you hungry? Are you frustrated? Are you in pain? Are you just trying to think of something that you can have for dinner? Are you feeling depressed? And are you wanting something a little bit different? Are you daring to be different this year and stepping off of the merry-go-round, having less of those I've been here before moments? I connected with one of my healthcare providers today and shared a repeat sentence that she and I have discussed before, and that is feeling extra fatigue during the winter months. And that as I've gotten older, it's earlier and earlier in the evening during the darker months that I feel very tired. I've always been a morning person, though going to bed early hasn't always been a priority. Mainly because I have had all other things to do, such as taking care of people, taking care of myself, multiple jobs. How about you? All of those grand plans you have of getting to bed at a decent hour, getting up early in the morning, feeling refreshed. As I shared that I was feeling extra fatigued lately, especially this year, 2026, when I have set some really ambitious health goals for myself, and knowing that I usually start to get sleepy winding down between 8 and 9 p.m. at night. Getting to bed and getting to sleep, that's the other part of my routine to take me to that happy place of slumber, since I inevitably will wake up between 3 and 4 a.m. no matter what. That is my mode. That is how my body just functions, and when I'm at my peak energy, early morning. What are your sleep routines? Are you a night owl? Are you a morning person and early bird like myself? The funny part of having this discussion with one of my healthcare providers, a woman that I have relied on for a couple of decades now, is that she leaned in, laughed, and said, "You're a mammal. It's winter. We need to sleep, rest. Think of what our ancestors would have been doing." And immediately I thought of my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and in winter, long after harvest and canning, putting up jams, those type of things. In the winter, extra time for mending, all of those, sharpening the knives. I'm not talking about back to the Neanderthals. I'm just talking about several decades ago, not that long. With many of the younger people in my life also feeling incredibly burnt out, I too spend my share of the day staring at screens, and it has not been friendly to my eyesight. Are you taking enough time for yourself? And I say this as I'm staring at a screen, to rest your eyes. The healthcare procedure that I received is a technique called craniosacral therapy. I will list that in the description below if you are unfamiliar with that type of healthcare. I work in the field of health education, though I am also an alternative healthcare provider. And as my career started in health, not only academic, clinical, all of the different realms, I felt that it was pretty important that I practice what I preach. Otherwise, It would be as if I'm seeking a dentist and I find someone that has black rotting teeth and think that's a great person to have I can't talk, have as my dentist. No, being a wellness coach, a patient advocate, all of the roles, the hats that I play, do I do things perfectly? Of course not. Though practicing what I preach means that I invest in myself and I also am taking accountability for the times that I step outside of what I know is in my best interest. And having that feedback from my healthcare provider, as basic as it sounds, is that yes, it is that reminder that I am a mature woman and that I need more rest and that I do not function well in the evening. I need to have the bowl of something warm and ideally spicy because I crave spicy. I've been eating a lot of curry lately. And those are some of the things that support my immune system. As a public health worker, this is my corporate job that I have, I've been encountering a lot of illness, especially post 2020. And it's been fairly remarkable to me and all of my healthcare providers, whether they are Western or alternative practitioners, that I never caught COVID and I can't honestly remember the last time I had anything even close to something like the flu or a cold. I've never had pneumonia, and I have asthma. I have chronic conditions that compromise my immune system. I live in Salt Lake City and our air quality right now is absolutely horrific. When I was driving home, I could see the sea of the literal sea, SEA, of dark grayish, sooty, gritty gunk that I was breathing all day long. And I know, based on healthcare feedback, that my lungs are scarred and that the longer that I stay in the city where I was born, I've lived in this valley my entire life, the shorter my life will be. And you may be saying, oh, you silly woman, why do you still live in Salt Lake? Great question. I have family here. My home is here. I have a now grown son who is here. And do I have a plan of escape? Yes, I certainly do, because I have been given those ever so urgent messages that get stronger every year telling me that I need to find somewhere cleaner to live to support my level of health, or I should say lack thereof, because of the asthma. The environment that we find ourselves in is linked to our health, and how I manage my health, knowing the environment that I'm in, is how I am being my own great caregiver, and also working with my healthcare providers, because they too know that environment matters, lifestyle matters, and genetics matter. That's where I encourage you, if you are not having a more comprehensive medical home where you have at least one or several healthcare providers that you trust, that you feel supported by, and that can partner with you to work as a team. That is the ideal. It's not always easy. I have fired more than one practitioner, and I know that more than ever, especially if you live here in the West, in the United States, that finding a healthcare provider that accepts your insurance, or perhaps you are uninsured, I've been there, I understand that dilemma, and someone who's taking patients and who gets you, who wants to and does take the time to work with you. Being a very proactive patient is more important now more than ever, due to the health crisis that we are having as far as healthcare costs, and the fact that it's an extraordinary number of adults, even young adults and children now, that are managing multiple chronic conditions that are degenerative and will often get much worse over time. And there's only so much we can do to manage those, and that means that we don't give up. That's when you have that opportunity to look yourself in the mirror and know that you know your body better than anyone. A healthcare provider can look at your chart and have all sorts of records and lab results, and that's great information. We need to have that. And trust your instincts and listen to yourself. Oftentimes, I'm encountering people that are so numb and depressed and overwhelmed and frightened, and that is another level of numbing. Fear alone is paralyzing. Having the space and the time, whether you have enough money, time is also the valuable commodity to invest in yourself for every moment that you can give yourself in more self-care, in more nurturing, and whether it's the very basics of drinking more water, eating a few more vegetables, getting enough fiber, making sure that you're getting some sunshine, because that's crucial to balance our circadian rhythm and make sure that we're getting enough quality sleep, reducing our screen time, and laughing. There are all sorts of alternative and Western remedies that I have been weaving in and out of my medical home, my medical approach to my own health care. And as a patient advocate, as a caregiver in the past, I'm an empty nester now, and it's crucial for me as someone who wants to remain independent and have my freedom, not be a burden, and have my independence and enjoy life to the best of my ability. This is why it's crucial for me as someone who, yes, I work in the field of health, though I need to take care of myself. And this Aging Well channel that I started here on YouTube, this began as a legacy project and is also a way for me to glean all of the content and the information that I've written on my website, that my work as an educator and a writer, I'm proud of that. That has merit, though bringing it to a different platform and a different audience is why I have shown up here as I transition to a different stage in my life, where I lovingly have referred to it as Crohn's stage, and I don't see that as a negative. I have never been the type of woman that is embarrassed about my age, and I celebrate my birthdays. I love my birthdays. Whenever I've had the opportunity with whatever employer I'm with, I do my best to not be at work on my birthday. And since the world has changed dramatically, I have been traveling as much as I can afford because I don't need any more stuff. You may see lots of clutter all around me. I opened an eBay store last year just simply to downsize, because as I get closer to the time where I can semi-retire and shift my work into a different direction, I want to be out and about. I'm even considering the nomadic journey. There are all sorts of opportunities out there, especially for women now, things that were never available to my grandmothers and certainly not to my great grandmothers. And I'm looking forward to that. Age is not a dirty word. I do not like any type of a product that says age defying or that's just nonsense. As long as you have a pulse and you are still breathing, regardless of your age, that means you're aging. That is not a negative to me. When I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, woohoo, yay. I don't fear death. That is so far outside of my boundaries. I digress. The point being, my channel here, the resources that I have at my website, that the website was launched in 2016, and all of the information on that website that was designed to help adults, caregivers, and patients alike to better manage their health, improve their quality of life, and better manage chronic disease. My whole intention of entering the field of health was because a lot of the people I loved when I was a younger woman were seriously ill, and I wanted to help them. I wanted to be a better parent. I wanted to take better care of myself, and I wanted to better understand the genetics that were impacting me that might show up in my life later on, and some of them have. And I have been better able to handle many of those, so much so that I'm part of one of those medical studies. I like science. I work in the field of science. My degree is in science, health science. And you may or may not have these in your area. There are clinical research studies all of the time. You're more or less being a guinea pig. And I like to test things out on myself all the time. I love to cook. Food is medicine in my world, and I use the science of food to help nourish and promote health and well-being in my body. I have shared that as a mom, as a mother, as a wife, as any of those hats that I wear. This clinical study that I'm in right now, they have been fascinated and watching me a little more closely than other studies I've been in the past, only because I have given them the list of my chronic conditions. They know that I have dual hip replacement and that I have been able to manage very tricky conditions such as shingles without medication. And they want to know why and how. And I've been sharing those tips and techniques and methods with them. I have shared many of those things here on this channel, and they are on my website. I would love to hear from viewers. The YouTube analytics are telling me that the majority of people watching my videos are between the ages of 25 and 44. That fascinates me. And that it's pretty equally matched as far as male or female or whatever gender you align with. I am a 60-year-old woman, and having that difference, I'm curious about that only because I am an educator and I have taught more adults and older adults than younger, though right now I am in the field of home visiting where I am helping parents who have children under the age of 5, and it's a very unique curriculum. Within that population, of course, then the folks are much like in the age group of people that are finding me on YouTube. And I'm curious about that and wonder if there is people seeking advice. I encounter a lot of people who do not have parents or grandparents in their life, whether they are disconnected or they live too far away, don't have a good relationship, they've passed away, all sorts of of considerations. My grown son has also given me some very loving advice in saying that oftentimes my food videos, he says I'm too condescending and talk too much about people eating their vegetables. And I think, okay, well, I have been following a plant-based diet for a number of years now, saved my life, and it's challenging for me not to want to say how wonderful it is because I lived the high protein thing. I was gluten free for a number of years. I have followed so many fads and so many ridiculous quick fix type diets that were absolutely detrimental to my health and certainly did nothing for my bank balance. And I'm at the point now where having my experience and the, I don't want to call it wisdom, it's experience. I've learned and lived some things that are much different than generations who cannot fathom a life without multiple screens and hundreds of channels on television and a world without the internet. And I am certainly a late adopter coming onto this platform. And if you've listened this far, if you're still here, wow, thank you. Wow, neato. My name's Tiffany Anderson. I am the founder of Anderson Therapeutics. I've given you my other spiel of credentials. If you want to see all of those, my resume is on my website. And I am a writer. First and foremost, my favorite form of communication is writing. I have also been told over the years, especially prior to COVID, when I had a private practice and had a fairly sizable following of people with alternative health care. I had the opportunity of working at a high-end Japanese day spa here in Salt Lake, and I know that I have a fairly soothing voice. My channel just recently introduced distance Reiki healing sessions. That was a bit of a stretch for me, and I am learning and experiencing and knowing that the energy and the intention and the focus right now within these devices, there is that resonance, that connection, that space that we are holding right now. We are holding this space, and having this on a recording, that is why it's a legacy project. Now, my grown son, I don't have grandchildren yet, and my time is going to be shorter than I wanted it to be because I have multiple chronic conditions, that my life will be a little bit shorter than I wanted it to be. And that's okay, because it's not entirely up to me. And I accept. I accept what the universe has to offer, and I accept the consequences of my health choices. And that is something that I invite anyone that I've coached, is that regardless of your dietary choices, your lifestyle choices, how you move or don't move, what you put in your body as far as food and beverage, you do you. An adult, when you're not hurting anyone, when you are over a certain age, and that, hey, take responsibility for any health consequences that entails. Bottom line, I have helped many people, and I want to help others here. That is something that I'm learning more about this platform, and how, what style of video, which type of conversation style, or audio, visual, music, what is it that allows me to ride the algorithm of YouTube and make it to whoever whoever is watching, and I thank you. Please share in the comments where you're watching this from. When are you watching this from? What resonated with you? What irritated you? What is and isn't working in your life? And I invite you to visit my website, andersontherapeutics.com. That link will be down below. There are free resources out there for you, and they require your participation. That is the way it works, is that you participate more fully on your journey to improved health, because it is never ever too late. Never ever too late. Thank you again for watching. I'm going to make some dinner. I've decided that I'm going to air fry some russet potatoes and have a salad. And I have some frozen blackberries and bananas in the freezer, and I'm going to throw those in the food processor later and make some nice cream, because I also have vegan chocolate chips to throw on there. Yeah. Have a nice evening.